Hello, we're Steve and Mary Alessi, pastors of Metro Life Church, and we're really delighted that you chose to join us today as part of our online campus. Now at Metro, we are all about the 3 R's: relationship, relationship, relationship. What does that mean? It means we value relationship with God being first and foremost. Also, relationship with each other. People who walk through the doors of our church, we value those relationships. And then relationship with people outside of our church walls, which is why we believe this online campus is so important. It's allowing us to connect with you.
This is us getting to know you, and we're excited to do that. If you haven't had a chance yet, would you subscribe to our YouTube channel? Turn your notifications on so every time we go live or every time we post a video, you have quick access to it. And we hope that this message will be a blessing to you and it will encourage your walk with the Lord.
Hello, Metro. It's Pastor Steve. I'm very excited today to be able to come and share this message with you. And today we are going to be looking at 2025 being a year of leadership. And so we're going to talk in this message about being adaptable and your ability to adapt to change. We're going to be reading out of Genesis chapter 1. We'll pick it up in verse 26 and read down to verse 28. It says, "Then God said, 'Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over the livestock and over all the wild animals and over all the creatures that move along the ground.' So God created mankind," get this, "in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said, 'Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground.'" Remember that passage? As you turn over now to Genesis chapter 6, we'll pick it up in verse 5. "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, 'I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals and the birds and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them.' But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord." Let's pray. Heavenly Father, you are good to us, and we thank you that in your word today we can receive truths that are going to help us live the right kind of lives. Now we ask that you'll anoint not only your speaker, but everyone that hears this truth now. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. So quick story. When I was a kid coming into my last year of high school, I played sports. I played football at the first part of the season. But then on the second part of the school year and the season, my parents wanted me to go head back and pick up a part-time job, but I didn't want to do so. Of course, they needed me to do it to pay for my gas and all my hamburgers and all the things that I was doing outside of their budget. So I kind of gave a little pushback because I didn't want to do it because I wanted to have fun my last senior year of school. So I took up wrestling. Though I'd never wrestled before, the coach convinced me you can do it and we'll let you wrestle at a JV level. Though I was a varsity football player, they were going to let me play at a JV, wrestle at a JV level. So I did. Meanwhile, I had to lose like 20 pounds to get ready for this first match. And it was going to be at Columbus High, and my parents were going to be there because on occasion they would try to support me in these sporting endeavors. So I'm there that night at the meet. I'm looking for my mom and dad. They're not there yet. The whole match is going on, and finally they call me up. Now, I was a little weak because I had just dropped a ton of weight, and I couldn't drink, I couldn't eat, especially prior to the match because I had to make weight, as they say. But I get out there and I start wrestling with this freshman. I'm a senior, he's a freshman. I've finished just all this football season, so I'm strong, been in the gym with all my other buddies, and I'm thinking this is going to be an easy match for me. Meanwhile, I keep wondering when my parents are going to get there. So like 2 or 3 rounds, I guess we're in our 3rd round or something like that. All of a sudden, the kid gets me on my back, and I'm like, I got this. So I go up on my head and my neck, and I'm upside down at that point because he's got me on my back. I'm trying to keep my shoulders from hitting the mat. And meanwhile, as I'm looking, I just so happen to be seeing the door to the gym. And just about that time, not when I'm on my feet, not when I'm on top of him, but now while I'm on my back, my mom and dad come walking into the gym. And somebody tells them right away, hey, your son is wrestling. So they're smiling. They're all excited. They're come running over. And I'm like there thinking, okay, at any moment, I'm going to get this guy off of me and I'm going to turn him over and get him on his back. And I'm going to win this thing because I'm the senior. He's a freshman. I'm stronger. He's not. I'm bigger. He's littler. And my mom and dad are there. Everybody's cheering. And I'm sitting there and I'm finding myself getting a little weak because I can't get the kid off of me. And then I'm thinking, oh my God, my parents are here now. Yeah, I can't lose this thing. I'm going to be embarrassed. And just about that time, pin! Sure enough, that little freshman pinned me. I was humiliated. But you know what I did? I learned real quick what adapting means. I gave up wrestling on the spot, never needed to wrestle again, and I went to work. I flipped it. I changed on the fly. I believe when it comes to our lives, the difference between a good life and a great life is leadership. Leading oneself. I think to walk in our vision, purpose, and destiny, leadership is needed, is ultimately getting to the destination of our life requires that you and I take daily steps in the direction of those things and navigate accordingly. Now, I know immediately some people are thinking that leadership is just for those that stand up in front of a crowd or those that lead an organization, but I don't believe that's true. I believe in order to care for oneself, you need to be a leader. I think the home that you are overseeing requires you to be a good leader in that home. When it comes to marriage, you need to know what it is to be a leader because men, we're called to lead our homes. And for those that are single parents, you're called to lead those children. When it comes to money, we're all called to make decisions and lead ourselves in a way that allows our money to be there and give us the greatest return. Which is why when I speak of leadership, even in the coming months at both of our campuses, I'm going to be focusing on the leader that is within each and every one of us. The one that we see when we look in the mirror every morning to get up and get our day going. Yes, I know there are some that are naturally gifted in this area of leadership. But can I tell you, some of those people that are naturally given to lead crowds are not real good at leading themselves. So all of us need to be able to look in the mirror every day and ask this question. Am I leading myself in a way that's giving me the best life possible? Because if you don't lead yourself, you're going to wreck yourself. So how do we do this? Well, I believe two truths right away need to stand out as it pertains to our leadership teaching. These will be actually foundations. Number one, God has put a level of leadership within each of us. God has put it there. Reading about the first man and woman created by God, we see that they were created in the image of God. Everything that God was, He poured into man. So all of us have the God DNA on the inside of us. And with that God DNA comes the ability to lead. How do we know that? Because He gave them this command. After showing us that they were made in the image of God, He then said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Notice some of the words that were used there. The words like fruitful, the words like increase, the word like fill, subdue, words like rule over. When you look at those words, they all carry with it a responsibility that God then equipped us with, the gifts and the skills to carry out that responsibility. So when He tells us that we are the ones that are to be fruitful, we are the ones that are to increase and fill the earth and then subdue it and rule over all things, He says that's your responsibility. And with that responsibility is the mechanism, the gift that is needed to do it. Now, you may not be ruling over the earth and being fruitful over large organizations, but you are doing so in your marriage. You are called to be fruitful in your marriage and with your children. You are called to lead and rule over. So God, if he gave you a responsibility, has also given you the gifts that are needed to see those responsibilities fulfilled. Second of all, you need to know this. True leadership is learned. True leadership isn't just a gift, though God has given us certain gifts that could help us with leadership. Real leadership is learned. And I want you to get this, because that's our assignment for 2025. It's to teach you and inspire you to grow in your personal leadership so that in turn, you're not giving over the reins of your life to someone else to make you happy. You are holding on to the reins of your own life to then make you happy and fulfilled. So I want you to remember those. First, God's put a level of leadership within you. And two, that leadership now has to be learned, even greater and multiplied in your life. Because I do believe you can be a better person. You can be a better spouse, a better parent. You're growing in that area. You can be a better Christian as you seek to lead yourself. Can I tell you, as leaders in your church, not just me and Pastor Mary and Pastor Chris and those in our family, but our whole staff. Let me tell you, at both campuses, we do take this goal of leading by example, not by parking space. We take it seriously. And what that means is we seek to lead ourselves in righteousness and godliness and even in a professional manner before we ever ask you to follow us. And we'll never ask you to do what we ourselves aren't willing to do or already doing. So we take it really serious when we say we're going to lead our lives. And this year, I want you to know your staff is on the journey of developing their own leadership. Every week they are being coached by a coaching team that is actually there for the whole staff via video. And he's specifically teaching our staff, all of us, to elevate our own leadership, because we know we want to lead you better, but it starts by us leading ourselves. Which leads us then to our first leadership lesson of the year. And that is the lesson of learning how to adapt. Being adaptable in life. Now, every leader knows the importance of this when it comes to organizational changes. But what about personal changes that are happening every day? I want all of us to be people that are open, number one, to change, but two, being willing to change. Cute little story of a general that noticed one of his soldiers was behaving oddly. The soldier would pick up any piece of paper that he found, he'd frown and then say, "That's not it." Then he'd put it down again. This went on for some time until the general arranged to have the soldier psychologically tested. The psychologist concluded that the soldier was deranged and wrote out his discharge papers and dropped them on the desk in front of the soldier. The soldier went over to the desk, picked up the paper, smiled and said, "That's it." I guess the young soldier just couldn't adapt to military life. We know in corporate America, they understand that if they want to survive and succeed in an ever-changing climate, then they have to adapt to the times that they are in. We see the old ways that we've received our news in the past. Back in the day, it used to be by television, it used to be by radio, or it used to be by the newspaper. But you hardly see the news printed anymore these days, because now everything can be found about news where most of us get our news is online. So there had to be changes, and even the way that the news was being delivered to people. When it came to social media years ago, the rage was MySpace. Then a couple of years after that, Facebook took over. And then Twitter took over, which is now X. And then Instagram took over. And then TikTok became popular. But then they banned TikTok. But TikTok didn't stay banned. Now TikTok is back. See, it's always changing. And it seems like just about the time you've mastered one thing, all of a sudden there's something new that you have to adapt to. Colleges, universities, churches, where there used to be in-person training alone or in-person services alone, now you see much of it is being done by stream. It's being done over the internet. Even as I'm teaching to you today, which, by the way, is not my go-to. Speaking to you live is in my heart. But having to adapt to two churches that are now in two services that meet simultaneously, we can't just do the magic trick anymore, bouncing back and forth. And because I personally want our church to all hear from me on these leadership principles that are so important, I want you to hear them from my heart, from my head, where I'm at. This requires me to have to go to a more video format, which requires some adjusting, change, not just on my part, but even on your part. Because I know many of you may not like this. You don't prefer a sermon via stream like this or video. It's easy for you to stay home. I know the excuse. Why come to church if I can just watch this at home and stream it? I got it. But of course, we know the church is more than just the sermon. The church is the worship. The church is the relationship. The church is our kids being educated for their lives as we prepare the next generation for the future. The church goes beyond just an in-person speaker. But we're doing it. We're doing it to change because we know we have to adapt in this ever-changing climate because God still has called us as a church and as a staff to reach South Florida. And it's not just going to be us four and no more. We don't know what the future holds. We just want to be ready for it. So therefore, we're called today more than ever to be adaptable as leaders and as a church, but also as individuals. And this is going to play out in your own life because when it comes to life, all of us have to be adaptable, not only to succeed, but can I tell you, even to survive. We have to know what it is to be adaptable. I mean, if you want a happy marriage, you learn quickly being adaptable is a must. We can't bring our old single self into our marriage and think that our single self, without changing our ways, is going to make for a happy marriage. Yeah, you may get up and be used to just pouring yourself a coffee, but you know what really makes your spouse happy? Pouring them some coffee too. You know, cleaning up after yourself, whether it's been in the bathroom or whether you've been in the kitchen, wherever it may be. Now you have to realize that, hey, if I use something, I got to put it away or else the other person's going to have to mess with my mess. That's not fair when you bring your single self into a marriage. We have to know what it is to change. Having kids, my gosh, you'll be amazed at how quickly your world changes. And for all the new parents in the room, amen, right? How crazy is it? You get kids, you want them so bad, they're going to be a blessing. And then all of a sudden, you have them at the hospital and they tell you to take them home and you're at home and you're like, what in the world? I'm not ready for this. But it's amazing how you adapt and change. And you have to be ready for it at all times. I want to say to some of our young couples, I know you're waiting for the perfect timing to happen for you to have kids. I'll tell you, there is no perfect time. Now's the perfect time. If you want them, go get them. Go have them. Don't wait for the perfect time because you're going to have to adapt at every time and every season. It's always having to adjust and change. So don't put it off. They're one of the greatest blessings you'll ever have in your life. Just be ready for them. Start being willing to adapt. Blending families. My gosh, taking two families that come from two broken marriages or a family that was lost a loved one, a parent through death, and then blending and bringing those families together as one. It takes a lot of change and willingness on your part to be adaptable because now you're in that blended family and it's not just about the husband and wife. Now it's about the kids and you're having to raise children that aren't your birth kids. That's not easy. And you just can't go in with a my way or the highway mentality. You can do so and maybe keep certain levels of organization in the home, but it's not going to be a happy home. You're going to have to learn how to be adaptable. Bring grandparenting into it. Grandparenting is fun. It's exciting. But it's also about adapting and changing Because now when you have grandchildren, they're not yours. And when it comes to disciplining them, they're not yours to discipline. You better have rules. You better have an understanding, because now it's just not about your kids' children. It's about your in-laws' kids' children. And maybe they don't like you disciplining them, or maybe they want you to discipline them more. And you may be somebody that never disciplined or had a heavy hand in discipline. It's a whole different ballgame when they're not yours. There's a lot that goes into being a leader who looks in the mirror and says, I'm good now, but I want to be great. So let me be willing to adjust, adapt, and change in every area of my life. And by the way, the Family Business Podcast with the Alessis is a great way for you to pick up some nuggets of truth on dealing with families, because that's what we do. Every Wednesday, there's a new episode. Go ahead and make sure you follow it on your favorite podcast platform. Even health-wise. You know, I've learned this. There's things that I can't eat today that I used to devour when I was younger. My body has changed. My system has changed. So we have to adapt even as we get older, even with something as simple as the food that we eat. And who determines that? We're the ones that choose the food we eat. We lead ourselves in that area alone. That's why this whole leadership, it's not just for the corporate thing. It's not just for the person up here. It's for everything that we do where we lead our lives on a regular basis. So every aspect of life changes as the years go by. And to keep a life happy, and I would say healthy, spirit, soul, and body, we need to stay adaptable. Which brings us to our Bible story that we read earlier, because we can learn some lessons there from Noah. Now, the Bible did tell us that Noah found favor and grace in the eyes of the Lord. The Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 6, even further on, verse 22, that thus did Noah according to all the commands God had given him. So he did. So you got to get this picture. We read that the earth was just evil, and God was so disturbed by the evilness in the heart of man that he sent a flood. But before the flood was sent, he told Noah to get up and build an ark and put 2 of every animal on that ark, as well as all of his family members, and then prepare for the rain. Now, mind you, it had never rained up to this point. So Noah was flying dark. He was flying in the dark. He was having to fly by faith and be obedient. And that's why you're seeing a man that had one set of the ways in which he was living in that particular day. He was able to adjust, adapt, and change, and ultimately was able to survive and succeed. Not just for him and his household, but for all of humanity from that point forward. So there's some great lessons to be learned here. For instance, when it comes to adaptability, we can learn this from Noah. A few points. Number 1, we got to keep our ear to the ground. Keep our ear to the ground. That's saying, be ready for the changes that are about to come. You're going with something on the inside of you. It's a discerning. There's something instinctual. It's like, all right, I'm not sure what it is right now, but I can tell something is about to change. In Noah's day, change was needed to happen because of the carnality of man. That carnality, that godlessness, that dysfunction, all of it was a precursor to change that was going to come. And I would say that in your own life, listen, when things aren't going right, it means something is wrong. And having your ear to the ground is allowing you to say, all right, let me make some changes to make it right. Because you can't ask somebody else to change you. You have to be willing to change yourself. Now, you could tell when things are not right. You know in your marriage when it's not right. You know in your health when it's not right. You know when things are not going in the right direction. Noah kept his ear to the ground, and he responded to what he heard, to what he felt. Leadership And being adaptable always says that I need to keep my ear to the ground. Number two, he also kept his eye on the horizon. When others ridiculed him for building the ark, Noah just kept his eye on the horizon because he knew the rain clouds would be coming. Mind you, he had never seen rain before. There was no such thing as rain. All he had was the word of the Lord for him. Here's what it shows us about God. And if this is true about God, we need to be doing the same thing because the DNA of God is on the inside of us. Here's the point. The God who never changes, he's always changing. Have you noticed that? He is the God of yesterday, today, and forever. He's the God that changes. I know we don't like to think that he changes, but he does. He never changes, but yet he's always changing, kind of that crazy thing. So he's really the never changing, always changing God. Yes, the God of the past. Yes, the God of the present. But if you're going to talk about a God of the future, then you need to know that things can't always stay the same. It hasn't stayed the same with God like it did back in the past, because today is a new day and things have surely changed from the past. So if that's his track record, that he's changed from the past to the present, then you know he's going to change from the present to the future. And that means as the changes occur, you and I should be ahead of the curve because we're keeping our eyes on the horizon. What is it that God is asking us to do? And that is being adaptable. Because adaptable means I'm expecting changes and adjustments. It's part of living. It's just wisdom. You change every year of your life and every decade of your life. If you change with every year and every decade, so will your family. So will the economy. So will your children. And you being aware of those changes, learning of them before, is you being able to adapt and change on the fly. The story of Gideon in his army, God raised him up to go against the enemies of Israel. Gideon he showed up with 30,000 men. And God said, that's too many. So he cut it down to 3,000. God said, even 3,000 is too many. I need you to bring 300. And the way that the Lord had him reduce the numbers from 3,000 to 300 is that he told Gideon to take the men to the lake. And he said to them, watch how they drink. Some of the soldiers went down and they just put their face in the water with their head down to drink. Others, however, went to the water, kept their head up, looking around, and scooped the water up and drank from their hand. Here's what God did. He said, send those who put their face down in the water to drink, send them home. And keep those who scoop it up and keep looking on the horizon. Here's what he found. Those who took the water in their hand while keeping their eyes on the water, they were people that were looking for the future, for the possibility, for the change that's about to come over the horizon for the enemy. Those who just looked down and lapped up the water with their face down in it, all they were consumed with was self-preservation. We need to make sure that as we look at the future of our lives, we're always looking at the horizon because change is coming. And because we're seeing it before it gets here, we are able to adapt and adjust. Number 3, we've got to adjust. Talking about adjusting, adjust our thinking. When it comes to life, we've got to always be willing to change the way we think about life. Noah, he had to think in terms of rain, even though it had never rained a drop of water. Here's a great little saying, write it down. It says, open minds lead to open doors, but closed minds lead you nowhere. That's a fact and it's principle. Let me ask you this question. What would you do differently right now if you knew the plan wouldn't fail? If you knew it, what would you do? Well, be ready then to adapt and change and begin thinking that way and see what happens. Because you want to step into that what if mentality. What if I was to act this way? What if I talk to my spouse in this manner? What if I discipline my kids this way? What if? You're always thinking about the what if, especially if you think the what if wouldn't fail. I'll tell you this, faith isn't needed when I see something and then believe it. That's not when it's needed. Faith is needed when I need to believe something before I ever see it. That's how Noah had to wake up every day. Think about that. He had to think rain and believing it was going to rain every day. It's what kept him working on the ark while everybody else was criticizing him, while everybody else was ridiculing him. And even when he was tired in his body and in his mind, he knew he had to work. So he always opened his mind to, all right, what if this is true? Because if God said it, then I'm going to believe it, and then I will see it. And because he was able to do that, he was able to succeed. Because for him, let's face it, it was life or death, and failure couldn't be an option. You and I have to break out of that that's not how we do it mentality. We got to break out of that. Because that's like the old saying that doing it the way we've always done it will only produce the same results we've always got. And in an ever-changing climate, we've got to be thinking, no, it just can't be my way, or that's the old way, and the old way's always worked. I'm at my season of life, I'm always wondering, how in the world can we do it better? Because maybe, just maybe, I could be wrong here. It may have worked in my day. It may have worked even 10 years ago. But things change so rapidly, even in leading a church, that I'm always thinking, all right, could we do it better? I have to adjust my thinking, and so do you, so we avoid the dinosaur mentality. Number 4, we got to surround ourselves with like-minded people. Noah needed his family to float this idea off of building the ark, and they were all in it because they knew what the alternatives could be if God was speaking truth to their father. Here's a thought. Are there people in your life right now that zap you of your momentum? If they are, I would really encourage you to consider how close you let those people in to impact your life, or how close you allow them to even influence your thinking. Because you got to surround yourself with like-minded people. Because it's hard enough in the real world. Outside of this church wall, it's tough. We all know that. It's the real world. And it's tough. And the last thing we need is someone close to us that just zaps us of our energy and our desire to do better in life. So when it comes to being adaptable, you're going to have to get around big thinkers. You're going to have to get around problem solvers. You know, anybody can talk about the problems in the world and complain about them, but it's great to have people around you that are able to help us solve some of those problems in the world. It's great to be around creative geniuses, people that are always dreaming and people that are always positive speaking. Those are wonderful influences because they put you in an environment to support what you feel on the inside needs to be done in your life. And I would encourage you, if you're going to be around those people, then invite them into your world, because those people may put a little pressure on you, because maybe they are elevated. Maybe they have an ability to see things out further than you do. Because all of us, quite frankly, we're walking around and we only see within a certain radius of our life. But get bigger people in your life that can see further. They help prepare you for the changes that are on the horizon of life. And then when they do speak, listen and be willing to adapt. Which then leads us to number 5, our last point. Position yourself for the rain. Position yourself for the rain. Noah had to start loading up the animals in the ark way before it started raining. What does that say to you and I? It says adaptability requires staying ahead of the next wave, or else we can miss it. And the point here is, don't wait for the problems to occur before you start dealing with them or making the changes. Don't wait for the problem. You're already behind the curve if the problem is on your doorstep. You shouldn't wait for the divorce papers to do something about a troubled marriage. You know if the marriage is trouble, and you should do something before you ever get to that point. Don't wait for the doctor's report to tell you you're sick. You should be doing the things that you know are healthy for you so that you avoid ever having to get that doctor's report. You want to make sure that you're preparing yourself financially so that there's never a threat of bankruptcy. If you see that you're leveraged too much over your head in debt, do something about it now before you have to file. When it comes to you and your relationship with your kids, I would just say to you, don't wait until they say they don't want to show up to hang out with you for the holidays. You know if something's not right. You know if they're not happy around you. You know, especially the older you get, how easy it is to get stuck in our ways. And the thing is, you don't ever want to put yourself in a position to where it's too late to do anything to fix it. Yeah, your family may always love you, but it doesn't mean they're going to want to hang out with you. Your spouse may say that they love you, but they may not be in love with you. They may not even like you. So it's important that you're always positioning yourself for the rain. I'm closing with this. Surfers, they know the exact time to start paddling in order for them to catch the wave. They know they've got to do it before the wave comes. That's what Noah did. Noah understood, let me paddle before the wave, the literal wave, starts to come. To paddle, quite frankly, is the battle. That's what adaptability is. It's always thinking something is about to change. Something is going to change, and I have to be ready for it. Because once the wave comes in, as long as you're out front paddling, it's then that you'll be able to ride it and keep your balance. You see, every time I learn something new, I'm paddling. I'm preparing for a tomorrow that may require this information that I'm consuming today. Every time I learn, I'm paddling. Every time I work harder, I'm paddling. Every time I build, pray, give of my tithes and my offerings, every time I forgive someone, every time I step out of my comfort zone, all of that is paddling. It's just staying ahead. It's making sure you're doing your part and you're being adaptable. Every time I look in the mirror and ask how I can better myself, I'm paddling. That's important because you don't know what God is about to bring into your life. Could be next month. It could be next 6 months from now. It could be next year. You don't know who. You don't know what. You don't know the opportunity. You don't know the door that He's going to put you in front of. You don't know the window that He'll put you under. But He is requiring that you be prepared for it in advance. And you want to be able to do that. So when you look in the mirror and you ask, how can I better myself as a person? That's leadership saying, I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to be ready for the wave. That's what being adaptable means. It's paddling and being ready to change because I know something is coming. I can't wait for the wave to start paddling. I have to paddle before the wave ever comes. So let me just say to you, don't lose your paddle or you'll miss the new wave that's coming. God bless you, Metro. Let's grow in our leadership. Let's embrace change by always being adaptable. God bless you.
Before you check out and click off this video, listen, thank you for letting us speak into your life. Hopefully, the message you heard has inspired and encouraged you. Now, if you want to find out more about Metro Life, you can go to our website at metrolifechurch.com. And right there, you'll see more and more about what this ministry offers you. It's great to have you joining us online, but we want you to step into our world if you feel so compelled to do so. And if you would like to make a donation through an offering, you can do so because right on your screen, there's a little tab for giving. Click on that tab. I promise you, you'll be blessed. as you do give.
So thank you for watching with us. Thank you for joining our online campus family. We hope you have a great week, and we hope that if you're in the Miami area that you would come and personally visit us so that we can shake your hand and get to know you. Have a great week.